right, welcome back to the Snod Pod with John Snodgrass, your mortgage resource, where we talk real estate, mortgages, and beyond. Joe Sladky was gracious enough to stick around to shoot a part 2 about homeowners insurance with us. So with that, let's get right into it. Joe, thanks for sticking around for,
no problem.
for one more episode. So I just wanted to cover when I bought my house, or maybe it was my original house, you're like, hey, send me the policy that I had. And you looked at it and you're like, hey, John, you need this. It's not that much more. I want to say it was the umbrella policy, but
Yeah.
Okay. Can you talk a little bit about that and why you said I should get it?
Yeah, absolutely. So on your homeowner's policy, right, it's made up of 2 parts. It's the physical structure of your home, and it's also the liability, which is if somebody gets hurt on your property, you cause damage to somebody else's property and you're liable for it, or your dog bites someone, you're liable for the dog. This umbrella policy is an additional liability policy that goes above and beyond your standard homeowner's liability limits. It's in increments of $1 million. So you can have just $1 million of liability on top of your homeowners, or you could have 30 million, 10 million. There's everywhere in between. The reason why it's important to have this in today's society is because if somebody does get hurt on your property, no doubt they're going to go after you and sue you. And they can come for the maximum on your policy limit, or they could just and walk away, or they can continue on and sue you for your assets and any future earnings. So you don't want to lose your home that you just purchased or that you've worked so hard to keep. So what that umbrella policy does, it is basically an umbrella that you hold over your head, and underneath it covers your home, and it also has coverage for your car insurance.
Yeah.
But it'll protect you from losing anything that you've worked so hard to keep. So it is an important coverage that a lot of people are starting to buy, and I would say we strongly recommend it to all of our clients.
I remember you said, John, you got to get this. Don't worry, it's not that much extra. And then an even more recent example, Patty, a friend of ours who I referred over to you, like she called me and was like, oh, thanks so much for referring me to Joe, because I didn't have this umbrella policy. And she's like, now I've got it.
Yeah. And
it sounded like it wasn't that much more, but she was so thankful that you did that. So
yeah.
You made me look good.
Yeah,
Thanks, man.
No, absolutely. And it's a very, like you said, it's an inexpensive policy to have in place that gives you a lot of coverage. Prices range anywhere from $70 a year to maybe $130, $150 just for a $1 million umbrella.
Okay.
Obviously, if you go up in price or for the limit of the umbrella policy, then it goes up. But for $1 million of coverage for like $5 or $7 a month, well worth it.
Okay. One thing that just popped into my head was, if you remember, before I moved, I was in a condo, and for a while I was living in Los Angeles. I had all my stuff in a storage unit, and literally the day before I flew out to meet the truck driver who was going to put all our whole life, my wife and I, there was a fire in Venice Beach.
Yeah.
I think it was like a meth lab. This was like 10 years ago now. Like the DEA was there. We won't go into that. But anyways, like I call you and I tell you the story. I'm like, oh, I have renter's insurance, Joe, but it like covers like 10 grand. And I'm like, oh, I was like all depressed. And you're like, hey, don't worry about it. You have this flyer or something where like it covered personal property. So I got like an extra 10 grand. Can you tell me, do you remember?
Yeah.
Can you tell me about this personal property? And I was like, well, that's not in my condo, but it's in Venice Beach, but it's covered.
Right. Yeah. So with any homeowner's policy, not only do you have coverage for the building, but you also have coverage for your personal belongings. And your personal belongings, that coverage extends worldwide. Now, some companies are a little bit different on how they have coverage when it's not at your home, but storage units, that is something that's covered, and that's the reason why we were able to help you out.
Yeah, that extra 10, because we literally lost everything. The only thing we didn't lose was like this like corner where like my wedding photos and some like wedding gifts and So it was like
irreplaceable things.
the irreplaceable
Yeah.
things were like that, like everything else we lost, which is kind of like a blessing in disguise because like my wife didn't really like the furniture that we had, and she wanted to get new stuff,
brand new stuff. Yeah.
So somewhat of a blessing in disguise, but it still kind of sucked.
Yeah, absolutely. You never like to see your belongings go up in smoke.
Right. So the personal property flyer, whatever that was awesome.
Yeah.
So thank you for
Absolutely
doing what you do.
Yeah.
Looking out for me. So I remember a couple months ago when my policy came up for like kind of a yearly review, you had said, "Hey, John, your price is going up a little bit." And then you kind of went into, why. Can you tell me why insurance is going up this year?
Sure. Yeah, there's pretty much two reasons why. First one is last year, especially in the Midwest, there was a lot of hailstorms, and all insurance companies just took it on the chin. They paid out billions of dollars for these losses. So insurance is there for when you need help with coverage. You got hail damage to your roof and now it's leaking. Well, you're going to pay your deductible, and then the insurance company is going to take the rest. Well, if you were one of the lucky few that didn't have any hail damage, you're still subject to that rate increase because insurance, everybody puts the money in the pot and it disperses it when you need it. So even though this year you didn't have it, you might need it 2 years from now. But so the companies are adjusting their rates accordingly and taking some rate increases there to try to make up for that premium lost and money lost from the insurance companies. So it's a bummer, but if you ever need to have a claim,
which I've had,
you're thankful that you have good coverage. So
makes sense.
The second part is, especially on the homeowners, the cost of labor and material, that's gone up in the past 3 years. You have to be living under a rock not to realize that inflation is happening due to COVID, and it just is continuing.
Supply chain, everybody's favorite thing. Like
favorite excuse, whatever you want to call it.
Whenever I get in trouble at home, I'm like, honey, supply chain.
Supply chain, I got the wrong thing at the grocery store. But so that's a factor. And with that being said, materials are more expensive. So it is more expensive to rebuild your home or repair something. Well, the insurance company is adjusting the value of your home gradually each year to try and keep up with that inflation cost. So yes, your policy might be going up in premium, but most likely you are getting more coverage.
Yeah.
So it's not all a terrible thing. Sometimes it's a hard pill to swallow and understand, and it takes a little bit of conversation.
Yeah.
And that's where we try to come in and explain it to you, not in insurance terms, but in English.
You were great. You were very calm and collective. Thank you.
Insurance
thank you for giving me the bad news in a nice way.
Yeah, insurance is a tough language to decipher sometimes, even for professionals. So happy to do it.
Cool. So I wanted to get into this topic. Trees. So I think it was 2 years ago, my wife's uncle, I think there was a big thunderstorm, lightning storm, and I believe the neighbor's tree got struck and the tree landed on his house. Now, Uncle Tony, I never wanted to ask him, kind of intimidates me a little bit. No, he's a really nice guy. But I never asked him, hey, did you pay for it or did your neighbor pay for it? I would assume that it's the neighbor's tree landed on my house. I hope you're paying for it. Like, what happens in that scenario?
Yeah, so that's a tough question and a hard conversation to have for a lot of insureds. I would say that if in a normal circumstance, that like you just said, if my tree falls on your house, unfortunately, it's the person's house that's damaged. That's who's
I gotta
homeowners.
pay for it?
Yeah, you're gonna have to pay your deductible to go ahead and get that fixed. Now, I being the super nice neighbor, I would feel awful about it.
I would hope so.
I would, probably offer to pay some of your deductible or some cost associated with it.
Maybe the whole thing?
Let's not go that far. But no, that's something that
so neighbors would figure out.
Neighbors would have to figure out. Right. You would have to figure it out if it's a normal, healthy tree and just got blown over and caused damage. Yeah, unfortunately, you're on your own there, and your homeowner's policy has coverage for it.
Okay.
Now, if you have one of those terrible ash trees that are dead, it's been dead for 3 years, like I have in my yard, and I just need to go ahead and take it down.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden it blows over, and the claims adjusters come out and do their inspection of what happened, and they found, oh, John, you know what? You're actually negligent for not taking down a dead tree. This could have been prevented. They might say it's on you.
Yeah.
So that could be one way around. Now that's not seen very frequently.
Sure.
But it is something that does happen.
Well, that's a good point you bring up. When I moved into my house, I got rid of all my ash trees, but like my property kind of touches like 5 different neighbors, and a lot of them have ash trees. So I guess I need to politely ask them, hey, can you take that tree down for me?
Yeah, it's always easier to have a conversation before bad things happen. So
you know what? I've got a friend, actually friends, the Hoppy brothers own Hoppy Tree Service.
Oh.
Maybe I'll have them send them some letters. Hey, cut down your ash tree.
Yeah, right.
All right. So okay, hope that never happens.
Yeah, right. Knocking on wood that it never does, but your homeowner's insurance covers it. So
all right. Well, at least the insurance covers it.
yeah.
Well, hey, that was definitely one of the things I wanted to end with. I know you got to run.
Yeah. No.
So thanks for coming in, Joe.
Yeah.
Just real quick, do you want to talk your credentials? Capital Insurance.
Sure.
I'll let you go.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So if you want to get in touch with us for some homeowners insurance or any other types of insurance, we can be reached at our office number. That's the best way to get in contact with us, which is 262-781-8080. And my email is joe@capitalinsurancewi.com. And that's monitored very regularly throughout the day. So.
And if you want to see the origin story of Joe, we covered that on part 1. So check part 1 episode with Joe. But thanks for listening and watching the Snod Pod with your mortgage resource, John Snodgrass, where we talk real estate, mortgages, and beyond. Thanks again for watching and listening. We'll see you next time.